And we're back live here in the Booker studio. It's the Red Book Show broadcasting on Wexford New People's Movement Radio. I'm here with Steve Unicky and Jamie T. Murphy. Myself and Steve have been reading The Great Gatsby over the last week. Jamie has watched the video.
The video! I watched it on VHS.
Jim Billy Bob Ray is still trying to get through Ulysses. We'll talk about that next week.
We might get him back next week.
I watched it on video.
We'll talk about that next week.
So The Great Gatsby is... It's basically about a mystery man called Jay Gatsby who buys a mansion on West Egg, and across the bay is his former lover Daisy, who's now married to Tom Buchanan, Old Money, and across the bay, of course, is where all the Old Money people live in East Egg, where West Egg is the new up-and-comers, and no one really knows how Jay Gatsby has made his money, but they do know one thing: he's got his eyes on Daisy again.
Ooh.
So, Steve.
Yeah,
Great Gatsby, a classic. What do you think?
It is a classic. I thought about F Scott Fitzgerald a lot again when I read this book, because he had high hopes for this book, and they were basically dashed at the time. He got sort of mixed reviews. His sales weren't all that great, and his life ended in semi-obscurity, and then he died, and then he finally gets recognition. You know, this is a story that we've seen happen before with writers.
Well, we've seen it with Philip K. Dick, we've seen it with H.P. Lovecraft, we've seen it with Kennedy Toole, so many
all the time
authors, and today the problem is how many authors have been left undiscovered because we're too busy looking at what Amazon puts in front of us instead of...
That's €20.
Exactly.
But F. Scott Fitzgerald had success, and I suppose he was more known as a commercial writer with what did he have? The Beautiful and the Damned, and This Side of Paradise was his first one. And I suppose this one he was trying to be more. Some people thought he was getting to be on the station.
He thought this book would be legendary.
Yeah,
and he was kind of disappointed when it didn't turn out with the public. But I could really relate to a lot of themes of this book: the lonely mansion on the hill, filled with strange people, somebody having a quest for a new identity, self-invention to achieve a dream. It turns out to be very personal. No spoilers. Separation of style from meaning, personal identity reduced to personality. In other words, personal identity resides only in the perceptions of others. That's sort of that. All those themes really hit me. This book had some legendary lines in it too. But go ahead, Wally.
Well, all I was going to say there was that's as true today as it was in the 1920s. Back then, people reinvented themselves by buying mansions and hosting parties for the elite, while today we do it by setting up accounts on Instagram and TikTok and presenting ourselves as being something glorious.
Presenting our images.
It's the same thing. We're curating versions of ourselves for strangers to make ourselves feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Now, there's so many good lines in this book, but I'm going to zero in on a line by Jordan Baker, a golfer in this book who sort of hangs out with Nick Carraway. She says at one point, and I can hear Fitzgerald's voice coming right through with this: "There are only the pursued, the pursuing, the busy, and the tired." I made a postmodern translation, a contemporary translation. There are only prey, predators, and the indifferent, those being the busy and the tired. Do you think he got it right, Wally?
I love Jordan Baker. I think... Yeah, I'd agree completely with Baker. But I'd say today it's the consumer, the tech bros, and the tired and indifferent.
Yeah. And then we're all in the middle who are trying to not be indifferent.
Yeah.
Like you were talking there, Wally, about an Instagram, and we kind of do it today, like what Gatsby did it, because back then it was like if he had a big house, he's rich. Yeah. You wouldn't think any more about it. You might know what's happening behind the closed doors. It's kind of like to bring it up a bit more modern, like The Sopranos. Like Tony has a massive house on the hill, right? But you're thinking he got it when it was cheap. His father-in-law was a contractor, so he got it for half nothing. But it was all perceived notions because he was the mob boss. So he had to be seen to be living in a massive house. But inside it's chaos. You know, and it's all built on lies and just complete bull.
We see it with the influencers today. A lot of them are living in Dubai. And but they're living in rented houses with rented cars.
These massive places,
They don't own anything. They don't have a penny in the bank,
Actually,
it's total lies.
When Harry was younger, there was a channel on YouTube called Roma and Diana. two Polish kids.
Yeah.
And the videos, and I'm like, there's no way that's their house.
Yeah.
Like, it was in America, but it was a massive house in some hills, and it was like a 10-bedroom, massive white space. And I'm like, they don't live in that house.
No.
It's too clean. Yeah, I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just this perceived notion of wealth. It's ridiculous. Carry on. And now, I think the three of us and Tony know how Gatsby made his money, but we won't say.
Yeah, no.
We all know how he made his money, lads.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Don't
Let's
do
just say he was the kind of fella who knew a fella who'd be able to get the stuff who knew a fella. That kind of fella. Yeah.
Now, I sort of was struck very personally as I read this book because I knew all these young characters in Gatsby. I knew people like them, but I knew them when they were old and I was young. I met them while they were still alive, working at country clubs in St. Louis in the 1970s as a caddy, server, pots and pan washer. They actually shaped my future. They got me a college scholarship, but they were also racist and superficial and snobbish and fake, as well as all white and wealthy. At one of the clubs, members actually played polo, as well as golf and tennis. I took the side door in a uniform, the servant store, and observed their world, the worlds they dreamed of making back in the time of the Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
If they vomited at a party, I arrived to clean up their mess. I was grateful in a sense. I had to be, for things like the college scholarship, right? But I was observing them critically as subjects and making them characters in my first writing pieces. I ended up calling the whole lot the Cloud People because they're far above what Fitzgerald calls the Ash Men and also the Ash Women working. They just float like on a cloud,
Well, who's the cloud people today, Steve? Because would it be Bezos and his wedding party on the canals, or Peter Thiel and his bizarre ideas about accelerationism?
He was in Wicklow last week as well.
Nobody else buys into it. Yeah. But like Fitzgerald, interesting thing about him is he actually admired the wealthy, but he also deeply distrusted the privilege they had and thought he hated the pretentiousness of it. So he doesn't attack their wealth, but rather the emptiness of their lives and the emptiness of their ideas.
Well, I have to enlighten me now. Like, was Fitzgerald, was he well off, man?
No, and this actually part of Fitzgerald is based on Gatsby, part of Fitzgerald is based on Nick Carraway. That's part. While Gatsby is actually based on a guy called Max Gerlach, who was, like Gatsby, a veteran of the First World War. He became a millionaire in the same way that Gatsby did without spoiling anything. And he was a complete eccentric who reinvented his past so that he was a working class guy, but he reinvented his past that said that he was Oxford educated and he was related to Wilhelm II.
Brilliant.
And he would address people as, "Good evening, old sport."
Oh, that's amazing. That's great stuff.
Absolutely.
I think somebody ripped that line off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote this at the end of reading the book, just on a sort of a moment of reflection. I wrote that the characters of The Great Gatsby are a poisonous mix of love adulterated with money and ego. Why? Gatsby is the metaphor for the answer. He falls in love with Daisy, wearing his military uniform like a disguise. And he concludes, even back then, you can't be loved if you're poor. The solution Gatsby finds is to advertise himself as rich and convince everyone he was. This must have taken some epic and audacious... Oh, spoiler alert. Anyway, what is reality? Fitzgerald finds it elusive in society. People tell stories, maybe half true. Other people jump to what I call A to B to G conclusions about other people. In a world of dishonesty and meaningless competition, when does truth emerge? Only in tragedy and failure. That's what I got from the book.
It's exactly what we're saying again. It could be written, The Great Gatsby could be written today, but Gatsby will be an influencer. It's the same themes. Truth isn't found in appearances. Nothing changes. Consumer culture tells us we're one purchase away from happiness, and we go through different, whether it was the 1920s, the lost generation, whether it was the 1950s when everyone in America thought they could buy their own home and everyone would be happy, or the rise of the yuppies in the 80s, or the rise of the hipsters today. It's all absolute nonsense. And
well, I think it was John Kenneth Galbraith or Mark Twain. I can't remember who said it, but I know what was said. That the American dream is based on getting wealthy without working.
There's something that I can connect something to The Great Gatsby that you probably wouldn't have expected me to, and that's Charlie Haughey.
Come here, Redzer.
I don't know if
my
are you
shirt.
familiar with Charlie Haughey?
Somewhat familiar, yeah.
Charlie Haughey, a very competent minister here in Den Taoiseach, who was embroiled in all sorts of controversies with tribunals. But Haughey famously gave a speech to the public that we needed to tighten our belts. At the same time, he was getting
He was not.
specially tailored shirts
Yeah.
bought out of Paris.
And he bought an island as well, didn't he?
Yeah, and famously like Gatsby, I suppose, Haughey was involved in a love triangle as well. So they say with Francis Mitterrand, the president of France, and his wife, while they were
I forgot
eating
about
quail, things seemed to get a bit sexual. But maybe we've said too much there.
Yeah, but
Tony could get sued for that one.
But I want to go back to the shirts because one of the most common moments in this book is when Daisy Buchanan starts crying at seeing Gatsby's shirt. She cries into the shirts because they're so beautiful, and I just
that was like honey shirts.
Isn't there a deeper meaning there too, though? Because Daisy, Gatsby was in love with Daisy, but I think at that point Daisy begins to realize that Gatsby, this is totally make believe. None of this is real. He doesn't belong here, and that he's not in love with her. He's in love with the idea of her, that she can. If he grabs her, he thinks he can have happiness and he can be a better person in society.
Yeah.
He needs her to be acceptable to other people.
Yeah.
It's all about his appearance still.
Yeah.
It's not about love.
Yeah, but you remember Haughey as well before we go on? Remember Parry Trinidad Day Late Show? And he was like, well, let me tell you something, young man. You try and run 3 houses on 250 grand a year. Like, good man, Parry, yeah, finger on the pulse, good man, yeah. Just happening today with the government, like. Yeah.
One of the things about F Scott Fitzgerald that I really like and love about him is not his when he was successful. It's sort of when he was sort of over the hill and in Hollywood trying to get involved in movies that were not so great, and he was struggling. He had quit drinking and so on. And this is what he wrote in the last year of his life, and I just love it. He wrote, at 18, our convictions are hills from which we look. At 45, they are caves in which we hide.
Wow, that's fantastic, Steve. We probably haven't spoken enough about The Great Gatsby. It's quite a short book, about 140 pages.
Nice.
But not doing a book talk on it, but you can pick up The Great Gatsby in most bookshops, and it's really, really worth a read.
Can you pick it up in your bookshop?
I found
about 5 copies here.
Thanks, Steve. Steve is doing a book talk on it now. Now. We're getting towards the end of the show. I know, Steve, you have a community announcement to make.
I do, and we may come back and talk about this some more, because I think how much time left, Tony?
We're running low on time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just say that I'm going to read something by Martin Buber that we talked about him last week, but here's a fuller quote. Community, when it appears, shall satisfy not a concept, but a situation. Realizing the idea of community, like the realization of any idea, does not exist once and for all. It always exists only as a moment's answer to a moment's question. Well, we're going to have a little bit more about this next week, but there's going to be a common ground fate sort of festival in right out here at St. Peter's Square. It's going to be on the 15th of August between 12 and 4 p.m.
Sweet.
It's going to be fantastic. There's going to be all kinds of things. There's going to be like a face painting booth, a mutual aid workshop, seed saving workshop, a Wex Pride table, plant swap, musician space, neurodivergent friendly sensory corner, common ground poetry reading, where you'll find me reading from the common ground section of war stories, a zine table, a DIY corner, a men's shed, a really free market, crochet workshop, close up cycling workshop, willow width activity, collaborative chalk art. This is exactly what I'm talking about facing down these forces, right? Who want us to basically just collapse into ourselves, meet other people, be creative together. If I could read one paragraph here about the festival, and we'll have more next week. These are some of the questions that have led to the conception of the Common Ground Fate. It's 100% non-transactional, bottom-up exercise and collective imagination about how we relate to each other as humans and the rest of the world. Come and join to explore a community that lies beyond self-interest, a profit motive, thraldom to automation, and a sense of impotence in the face of power with a capital P. Towards community that celebrates what it is to be human, not just what we are, but what we can become. Community is rooted in mutual care that fights fear of the unknown with curiosity and inventiveness and finds power and delight in cooperation and diversity. If you want more information about the whole Common Ground Fate, you can email Leah at lbonheim at proton.me. That's proton.me.
Brilliant.
And we'll have more
Thank-
next week, just
That
a little
sounds
bit
great.
more.
Thank you very much,
It's going to be
Steve.
fantastic.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Jamie T.
No,
Murphy.
thank you, Wally.
Yeah, thank you, Wally.
And thanks to Tony Bergen.
As
and
always, thanks to Big T.
a hugely successful operation he's carrying out here. As I said, we're an hour shorter this week because he's having a meeting tonight, just because of the huge interest in Wexford New People's Movement Radio. Tony, how many programs do we have on at the moment?
17 going out at the moment with about 4 or 5 more in the timeline, but you can get all the details on the website, which is up and running at wnpmr.com, and you get all the shows on the listen back page if you want.
And you can see lovely little
And you can
pictures
see
of
your
everyone
schedule
there,
is all
pictures of
there.
Steve there and everything.
Yeah,
It's
lovely
lovely.
pictures of everything.
Give the
Well,
public
that-
what they want. Steve by the barrel full.
That's great. Thanks for that, Tony. And we'll be back at 7 o'clock next Tuesday evening. And actually on the website, there's a listen now button. So just save that website and go onto it and support a local community radio station. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Good night, all.